as a young adult in this day with faith, there's times of being very encouraged and being very discouraged. Mm-hmm. I feel as a young person, I would be sooner to be questioned than my parents, or certainly my grandmother. Mm-hmm. I think that they would see me as someone who's still in their formative years of intelligence, but old enough to have made the decision myself.
I think that doesn't surprise me. Graduating from, I had a lot of faithful friends when I was in high school, and then when they went to college, there wasn't anyone there that was like really challenging them or asking them hard questions, or anyone that was telling them it's not, the way that you're living doesn't match what you believe or what you say that you believe. And so I believe it. It makes me sad.
I think what's the most alarming about that is I don't think that number is going to shift in the direction of more believers. I think that it's, if anything, unfortunately, it's going to move the other direction unless the church is able to start focusing on the development of strong churches, strong leaders. Right. There's just so many areas of life to focus on, and I think that the young adults is often overlooked because they're at college and let the colleges deal with them.
I've heard that college students are some of the most influential people in the world because they have the most time on their hands, and they study a lot. Yes, of course, they're busy, but they don't have like jobs and families and responsibilities in that sense. And so if you have the most influential generation with the least confidence in their religious beliefs, then that's going to be really difficult. And I see that happening in our world. So
I do believe that young adults and youth are the church of today, and I think we think it's the church of tomorrow. So I totally agree. It's like, it's not that these young adults are going to be the next group of leaders. They are a group of leaders right now, and we need to utilize them, and we need to pour into them, because if we just neglect a whole generation of people, it's like it's going to be like a lost generation, and I think we need to pour into them to keep the church going.
I think millennials want to change in everything, and they want the well-groomed preacher who is, they
want the right music. They want the right message. They want what they want.
They want the atmosphere.
It needs to apply perfectly to what they're going through.
They want the good coffee. They want the good conversation. On one hand, I think that they have merit in wanting change, and I think on the other hand, they are letting go of some of the things that built a strong church. There are some things that you should change, and you should be singing songs that people want to sing, and you should be preaching about things that are relevant, but the things that are timeless, like the good news of the gospel and the lyrics of rich theological songs, they need to stay in the church because that's what built the foundation. And if you lose that foundation, you're going to lose even more believers.
I think a difficult thing that our generation struggles with is being able to turn that question around, and instead of asking how can my church serve me, instead asking how can I serve my church, and instead of saying I want this to be X, Y, and Z, turning the magnifying glass over on yourself and saying how am I being transformed, or how am I contributing to maybe what I would like to see, or what or maybe most importantly, like what are the needs of other people in the community. I don't want to overlook that. I think that it's good for churches to be able to make changes if there's a need for it. I think that's a really good thing, but I also think that we can get carried away thinking like we need to change everything to make everyone happy.
I would say, without question, the summers I spent on the Indian reservations were the most impactful. They did change the way I view faith and the way that I view the social aspect of Christianity, but they were very solidifying in my faith and what I put my faith in and how I go about being faithful. Had I not been asked by Faith and Peace and Christ the King to go on trips and lead worship and just be a part of the youth group, I know that I wouldn't have actively sought out the organizations that I did in college that ended up leading me to Youth Works and then ended up leading me to Faith. So it kind of all builds on each other. So you need that strong background when you are in middle school and in high school that can lead you into college, which is one of the most difficult places to be a Christian now.
In youth group, it really opened my eyes to different avenues of experiencing Christ, and whether that was just in a small group or in a large group setting or on a mission trip or singing Christmas carols to people at the nursing home. Those were the kinds of things that made me realize that it wasn't just an inward thing, but it was an outward expression, and that I was taught that in youth group. They gave me the opportunity to go out into communities and to be able to be in community, I guess, and fellowship with other believers, which brought me to a place where I could still be strong in my faith.
I was a part of staffs at Summers that led mission trips, and we were successful, and all of us were 23 years or younger, and you leave that and you're like, I can do it myself, and that's not the case. We need that older generation, those people who have been through everything we've been through and more, and are still walking in their faith. And I think that young adults need to take religious leaders more seriously. I think young adults often believe, and I've felt this, that we can do it ourselves, that we don't need ordained ministers, that we don't need huge church communities built of of an older generation, of our parents. The older generation needs to view us as competent leaders, but I think us as young adults need to view the older generation as a wellspring of information and respect what they have done, and not just think that we're going to come in and reinvent Christianity.
I think that I need their example, so I need them to be living out godly lives and what they think that is, so I know what to follow and to be like. I know that there are a few adults in my life that have been so clear about how valuable prayer is and how much they're praying for me, and not just in like I'm praying for you. It's like they'll actually check in later and they really have been praying for me and are so joyful about growth in my life.
I was told a story when I was in college. I did an internship at a church where I led music for elementary school kids, and I met with the pastor, and he told me that during the Great Depression, this church had burned down, and they needed to have a new church, and they were able to build it and pay it off before the Great Depression ended. That's what I need from the older generation, is that
sanctuaries like that,
level of dedication and understanding the importance of the church.
I think the older generation has really set a good example of what relationships should look like and what actually getting to know somebody is like, and they really teach us how to slow down and sit and have a conversation face to face. Because our generations are now growing up with so much technology, that sitting with the older generation can really teach us how it is to communicate, how it is to be dedicated, and how it is to slow down and see the world around us and be able to reflect and grow together. Because I think we lack that as a generation, as the younger people in this world. Like, we lack the ability to stop and just be with people.
I think we look at Christianity as, what is God doing for me right now? And what is he going to be doing for me in 6 months? Not, what is God going to be doing for me in 30 years? What is God going to be doing for me in 50 years? We have been told that, young adults, that life change happens now, and change your ways, and that it should be something that we feel immediately and that we can respond to immediately. And we need that older generation to assure us that your mistakes are never going to end, but that God's grace is never going to end either, and that it's actually a journey. It's not a sprint. It's not a 3K, a 5K, a 10K, or a marathon. It is literally your whole life you're going to be walking. And that's what I need from the older generation more than anything, is just that assurance that when I'm 70, when I'm 80, that I will have a God that loves me and forgives me, and that he's not going to have given up on me when I'm 23 years old.